I have a childhood sweetheart. Her name is Chloe Williams. The name is classic enough, but the woman is a modern-day force of nature. We were practically engaged in the crib, yet she spends most of her days trying to figure out how to get out of it. Her reason? We're too close, she says. It'd be weird. That all changed the day I saw her best friend walking with some guy, arm in arm. Chloe suddenly turned to me, a strange look in her eyes, and asked, Ethan, that engagement thing, is that still on the table? Seeing the flicker of panic in her eyes, I could have burst out laughing. Well, Chloe, look who's finally come around. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating on the nightstand. I swiped at it blindly, silencing the buzz. 5 seconds later, it started again. The same custom ringtone. Chloe, I sighed and answered, my voice a gravelly mess. Chloe, do you have any idea what time it is? Her voice came through, crisp and unapologetically energetic. It's 3 in the afternoon, Ethan. Are you hibernating? I was up until 5 this morning finishing blueprints. Oh, well, wake up. It's important. She paused, and I heard her take a sip of something. My mom just called. She wants us over for dinner tonight. I put the phone on speaker, tossed it onto the pillow, and rolled over. Not going. I'm exhausted. You have to go. She insisted, her voice rising. Your mom, my mom. They'll both be there. It's a 4-way interrogation, and you will not leave me to face it alone. What are they interrogating you about this time? The new excuse you came up with last week to call off the engagement. Silence on her end. After a few seconds, she mumbled, It's not about that this time. Just be ready. I need you to pick me up at 6. Don't be late. She hung up before I could argue. I stared at the ceiling, all traces of sleep gone. This engagement, it was the result of our grandfathers getting sentimental over a bottle of whiskey before either of us was even born. Back then, her family owned a factory and mine owned a local store. We were, for all intents and purposes, a good match. My family's business eventually grew, and we moved a couple of times, but our families never lost touch. Chloe and I have known each other since we were in diapers. We climbed trees to raid bird nests, waded into creeks to catch fish. In elementary school, she'd help me with my detention essays, and in middle school, I'd intercept love letters for her. The night of our high school graduation, a group of us went to a karaoke bar and stayed out way too late. When we finally left, she was drunk and hanging off me, barely able to walk. The summer night air was thick and humid, and the breeze blew strands of her hair across my neck, making it itch. She suddenly looked up at me, her eyes shockingly bright in the dark, and asked, Ethan, are we really going to get married? I steadied her and grunted a yep. She scrunched up her face. But we're too close. Being with you is like my left hand holding my right. There's just nothing there. What did I say back then? I thought for a moment. All right. I said it's fine. I don't mind that you pick your nose with your right hand. The next thing I knew, her teeth were sinking into my arm. The bite mark lasted for 3 days. I finally dragged myself out of bed and into the shower, letting the water clear my head. I threw on a simple white t-shirt and gray pants, tried to look reasonably put together. I pulled up to her apartment building at exactly 6 o'clock and honked once. Nothing. After another 10 minutes, the lobby door finally swung open. Chloe emerged, wearing a pale green dress, her hair loosely pinned up, revealing the delicate line of her neck. She slipped into the passenger seat, bringing a faint scent of gardenias with her. You're 7 minutes late, I said, tapping my watch. Do you think girls just magically appear ready? She shot me a look as she buckled her seatbelt. Just tell them we hit traffic. I didn't answer, just started the car. After we'd driven a few blocks, she stared out the window and said suddenly, Hey, Ethan, something weird happened yesterday. Yeah. You know Josh, the new intern in my department? No. Whatever, he's just some new kid. Anyway, he brought me breakfast this morning from that ridiculously expensive sandwich shop downstairs. I tapped my fingers on the steering wheel. And I feel like that's how you're supposed to pursue a girl, she said, turning to look at me. It shows sincerity, you know? Action. Look at you, Ethan. What do you do besides show up on time to chauffeur me around? I laughed. Showing up isn't enough for you. Chloe, be honest. Before you got your driver's license your junior year of college, who was it that drove you to and from class? Rain or shine? That's different. That was an assignment. A political mission from our mothers. Well, the mission's been upgraded. It's a lifetime appointment now. You got a problem with that? That shut her up. She puffed out her cheeks in frustration and turned back to the window. You're impossible to talk to. The car fell silent. At a red light, I glanced over at her. She had a great profile, the slight curve of her nose, the way her lips were pressed together in a pout. She looked like a petulant child. The truth was, I knew she didn't have a real problem with me. She was just fighting it. This engagement felt like an ill-fitting suit she'd been forced into, one that was holding her back from exploring a world of other possibilities. But this was a suit she'd been wearing since birth. Taking it off wasn't going to be easy. When we arrived, our four parents were, as expected, lying in wait. The dinner conversation was pleasant enough, but it kept circling back to us. My mom put a piece of brisket on her plate. "Chloe, you look like you've lost weight. Hasn't Ethan been taking care of you?" Her mom immediately jumped in. "Not at all. She looks great. Ethan's the one who's been working so hard. I heard you just landed a huge new project." My dad and her dad clinked their glasses and started reminiscing about the old days, talking about how their decision to arrange our marriage was a stroke of genius. Chloe and I kept our heads down, eating, only looking up to offer a fake smile when our names were called. Under the table, a silent war was waging. She kicked me, a clear signal. Say something to break this awkwardness. I kicked her back. "Why don't you say something?" She kicked me again, harder this time. In retaliation, I snagged the last piece of lasagna she had been eyeing. She glared at me. I pretended not to notice. We finally made it through dinner and moved to the living room for dessert. Her mom casually brought up the topic we'd all been dreading. "You know, Mrs. Henderson's son is getting married next month. We already got the invitation. So, you too, when are you finally going to make it official?" Chloe, who had just speared a piece of watermelon, froze mid-air. I swallowed a bite of apple and spoke up. "Ma, Mrs. Williams, we're both just starting our careers. We're not in a rush." "Not in a rush?" My mom frowned. "Ethan, you're 26. Chloe's 24. When I was your age." "Mom, times have changed," I interrupted. "People get married later now." Chloe nodded vigorously. "Right, exactly. We want to focus on our careers first." Our parents exchanged a look. They didn't press the issue, but the atmosphere cooled considerably. When we finally escaped and got back in the car, Chloe let out a long sigh, as if she'd just survived a battle. "Every time we go over there, it feels like an interrogation," she said, slumping in her seat. "It's exhausting." I stayed quiet, focusing on the road. The night had deepened, and streetlights washed over the car's interior in rhythmic flashes. After a few moments of silence, she spoke again, her voice low. "Ethan, what do you think would have happened if we didn't have this engagement?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, will we be strangers? The kind who never speak again?" I saw the red light ahead and gently pressed the brake. "No, why not?" "Because you still owe me for the ice cream you stole from me in the 3rd grade." She stared at me for a second, then burst out laughing, punching my arm lightly. "Jerk, that was centuries ago." The mood lightened. The light turned green. As I pressed the accelerator, I heard her mutter under her breath, so quietly I almost missed it. "Actually, maybe this isn't so bad." Life went on. She didn't bring up ending the engagement again, but she didn't seem particularly enthusiastic about it either. We kept up our weekly routine of being summoned for family dinners, but otherwise, we were busy with our own lives. I worked at an architectural firm, where late nights were the norm. She was an editor at a publishing house and had her own heavy workload. Occasionally, I'd pick her up when she worked late. Her office was in an older building with dim streetlights out front. One night, I was parked across the street waiting for her when I saw her walk out with a male colleague. He looked unfamiliar, dress shirt, slacks, glasses, a very academic type. After a few words, Chloe laughed, waved goodbye, and walked toward my car. The man watched her get in before turning to leave. She slid into the passenger seat, seeming to be in a good mood. "Been waiting long?" "We just finalized next quarter's manuscript list." I started the car. "Not long." "Who was that?" "Oh, that's Mark, the new assistant manager in my department. He's talented, but a little long-winded," she answered casually, pulling out her phone to reply to a message. I didn't ask any more questions. A few days later, on a Saturday morning, she showed up at my apartment, ringing the doorbell like she was trying to wake the dead. I opened the door with my hair sticking up in every direction. She barreled past me and threw her tote bag on the couch. "Ethan, quick! Code red." "What is it now?" "Work dinner tonight, and we can bring a +1. She pressed her palms together, batting her eyelashes. "Our new assistant manager, Mark, and a few of the single women from the office are on the prowl. You know the drill. I need a buffer." I leaned against the doorframe, squinting at her. "So, when you need me, I'm your +1, but when you don't, we're too close, it's weird." She sidled up to me, tugging on the sleeve of my pajama shirt. "Come on, circumstances change. Help me out, and I'll treat you to a huge dinner afterward." She was wearing that same gardenia perfume. Up close, it was surprisingly alluring. I pulled my sleeve away. "Fine, let me wash my face." "Yes," she chirped, collapsing onto my couch like she owned the place. That evening, the dinner was at a bustling, trendy Mexican restaurant. About 8 people from her department were there, and just as she predicted, a few of the single women kept glancing my way. The assistant manager, Mark, was there too. He saw me and gave a polite if cool nod. Chloe played her part convincingly all night, putting food on my plate, refilling my drink, and occasionally leaning in to whisper something in my ear. Her acting was over the top, but I have to admit, I enjoyed it. Halfway through dinner, someone in the group called for the plus ones to say a few words. I raised my glass and offered some generic pleasantries, thanking everyone for being so welcoming to Chloe. The mood was lively until Mark suddenly asked with a smile, "So, how did you and Chloe meet? You two seem so happy together." The table quieted, everyone eager to hear the story. Chloe shot me a nervous look. I put my glass down, smiled, and wrapped my arm around her shoulder. "U.S." I began. "We've known each other since we were in diapers. She was wilder than me back then." I continued, climbing trees, catching crawdads in the creek. She was always the ringleader. One time she fell out of a tree, scraped her knee wide open, and started bawling. I had to carry her all the way home. The table erupted in good-natured laughter. Chloe pinched my side, whispering, "Hey, can we not bring up my tragic backstory?" I leaned close to her ear, my voice low enough for only her to hear. "There's a price for running interference with your admirers." Her ears turned a little red, but she didn't say anything else. Mark pushed his glasses up his nose. "Childhood sweethearts. That's really something to be envious of." After that dinner, no one at her office tried to set her up again. My project hit a critical phase, and I spent the next week working nonstop, coming home only to collapse in a bed. I silenced my phone and ignored everyone. By Friday night, when we finally hit our deadline, I felt completely drained. As I stumbled out of the office building, the cool night air shocked me back to my senses. I pulled out my phone and saw a slew of missed calls and unread texts, most of them from Chloe. The last one, sent half an hour ago, read, "Ethan, where the hell are you?" I rubbed my temples and called her back. She picked up on the first ring. "Ethan Cole, did you fall off the face of the earth? I haven't heard from you in a week." Her voice was loud, and the background noise sounded like she was on a busy street. "Work just finished," I said, my voice hoarse. She paused, and her anger seemed to dissipate slightly. "You're at the office?" "Yeah, about to head home." "Don't move," she commanded. "Send me your location. I'm coming to get you. You don't have to. I can get an Uber." "Just send it." She hung up. I stood there for a moment before sending her my location. 20 minutes later, her little white car pulled up in front of me. The window rolled down. "Get in." I opened the door, slid into the passenger seat, and buckled up, feeling like my bones were about to fall apart. She didn't drive off right away. Instead, she turned to look me over. "Geez, Ethan, you look like you've been living on the street." I closed my eyes, too tired to argue. The car started moving, the AC was at a perfect temperature, and the seat was comfortable. I felt myself drifting off. When the car stopped, I opened my eyes. We weren't at my apartment complex. "Where are we?" "My place," she said, unbuckling her seatbelt. "Come on up. I'll make you something to eat. You look like you haven't had a decent meal in days." I was starving, so I didn't argue. I followed her upstairs. Her apartment was small but tidy, filled with stuffed animals and potted plants. "Make yourself at home." "I'm making soup," she said, kicking off her heels, slipping into a pair of slippers, and disappearing into the kitchen. I collapsed onto the couch, listening to the sounds of water running and vegetables being chopped. A strange sense of calm washed over me. A few minutes later, she emerged with a large bowl of tomato soup and a perfectly grilled cheese sandwich on the side. "Eat up." The soup was hot and fragrant. I took a bite of the sandwich. It was surprisingly good. "So?" she asked, sitting across from me with her chin in her hands. "It's edible." "Oh, shut up," she scoffed, but I could see a hint of pride in her eyes. I wolfed down the meal. She watched me, then said, "Slow down. No one's going to steal it from you." She paused. "Ethan, next time you're pulling an all-nighter, can you at least send a text? When I can't reach you, it's worry." I looked up at her. She avoided my gaze, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Got it," I said, and went back to my soup. Something deep inside me felt warmed by more than just the food. After I finished, I had enough energy to volunteer for dish duty. She leaned against the kitchen doorframe, watching me. "Our college reunion is next weekend. Are you going?" "It's your reunion. Why would I go?" "Plus ones are allowed," she said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. "Besides, I heard, Ashley Thompson is going to be there." My hands paused under the running water. Ashley Thompson. The name rang a bell. Right? She was the most popular girl in Chloe's department, the one who had pursued me for a while, very publicly. Chloe had even asked me at the time if I was finally off the market, her tone uncharacteristically sharp. I told her I wasn't interested, but she didn't believe me. So what if she is? I asked, drying my hands and turning around. Nothing, she said, her eyes darting away. Just letting you know, if you don't want to go. I'll go. I cut her off. She looked surprised. You'll really go? Yeah. Can't have you getting cornered and forced to do shots without a bodyguard. She pursed her lips. I don't need you to manage me. The reunion was on a Saturday night at a buffet-style restaurant. Sure enough, Ashley was there. I hadn't seen her in years, and she was even more polished now, dressed head to toe in designer brands with flawless makeup. The moment she saw me, her eyes lit up, and she walked right over. Ethan, it's been so long. Her voice was syrupy sweet. I can't believe you and Chloe actually ended up together. When I heard you two had an arranged marriage, I thought it was a joke. Chloe, standing next to me, tightened her grip on my arm. I smiled. It wasn't a joke. That's so sweet. Childhood sweethearts, a real happily ever after, Ashley said, her tone dripping with insinuation. She turned her gaze to Chloe. You're a clever one, Chloe. Nothing like having a home field advantage. The comment hung in the air, souring the mood. Chloe's smile faded. I guess when it comes to love, it's all about fate. I suppose, Ashley said, flicking her hair back. A great guy like Ethan is bound to have a lot of admirers. You two better hold on tight. With that, she sashayed away. Chloe dropped my arm and huffed. So passive-aggressive. I looked down at her. Are you jealous? Who's jealous? She snapped. I just can't stand the way she acts. Like I picked up something she threw away. I'm not a something. I corrected her. Don't drag me into your self-deprecating humor. For the rest of the night, Chloe was sullen and drank more than usual. When it was time to leave, she was unsteady on her feet. I held on to her as we walked toward the exit. Ashley appeared at our side again. Ethan, do you need a ride? I drove. No thanks, we drove too, I said. All right then, be safe. Her eyes lingered on my face for a moment before she finally left. I helped Chloe into the passenger seat and buckled her in. Her cheeks were flushed and her eyes were closed. After we had driven for a bit, she spoke, her voice thick with alcohol. Ethan, yeah, were you ever really into girls like Ashley? No. Why not? She's beautiful. Too fake. She was quiet for a moment, then asked, so what's your type? I didn't answer right away. The only sound in the car was the low hum of the engine. She seemed to have fallen asleep, her breathing even and slow. Just as we were pulling in her neighborhood, I said softly, someone like you is fine. I don't know if she heard me, but I thought I saw the corner of her mouth curve into a faint smile. The consequence of her drinking was a massive headache the next day. She called me early in the morning, whining that I needed to bring her painkillers and soup. I resigned myself to my role as a delivery driver. When I got to her place, she answered the door in her pajamas, hair a mess, face pale. Ethan, I think I'm dying. She groaned, collapsing back onto the couch. I set the medicine and chicken noodle soup on the coffee table. Serves you right. Who told you to drink so much? It's your fault. She glared, though it lacked any real heat. My fault? How? You're a magnet for trouble. She yelled, throwing a pillow at me. I caught it and sat down next to her, opening the soup container and handing it to her. Eat something before you take the medicine. She slowly sat up, taking small sips. Sunlight streamed through the window, catching the soft fuzz of her hair, making her look surprisingly innocent. Hey, Ethan, she said suddenly. What now? Yesterday, I think I heard you say something. Her gaze was unsteady. Did you say someone like me is fine? I kept my expression neutral. You heard wrong. I said someone like you is a problem. She froze, then threw her spoon down and lunged at me, trying to strangle me. Ethan Cole, I knew you couldn't say anything nice. I laughed, fending her off. After a minute of wrestling, she ran out of energy and leaned against me, panting. My head hurts. You brought this on yourself, I said, but I raised my hands and began gently massaging her temples. She quieted down, closing her eyes like a cat being petted. After a long time, so long I thought she had fallen asleep again, she whispered, being childhood sweethearts is actually pretty great. We know everything about each other. No guessing games. I didn't respond, just kept up the steady pressure with my fingers. This woman, I thought to myself, after 2 decades of fighting it, was finally starting to make some sense. Life seemed to settle into a new kind of equilibrium. She stopped talking about ending the engagement, and I got used to her various emergencies becoming a regular part of my life. Like the Saturday afternoon I was watching a football game, and she called me, her voice thick with tears. Ethan, I got in an accident. My heart dropped. I grabbed my car keys and sprinted out the door. Are you okay? Where are you? I'm fine, but the front of my car is smashed. I'm at the corner of Market and Pine. When I got there, I saw her little white car had rear-ended an SUV. The front bumper was definitely crumpled. She was standing on the sidewalk, eyes red, looking like a lost kid. The other driver, a middle-aged guy, was pretty reasonable. When he saw me, he just said, "You her husband? As long as she's okay, that's what matters. I've already called the insurance company." After we dealt with the accident and the tow truck, I drove her home. She was quiet and subdued the whole way. "You shaken up?" I asked at a red light. She nodded, then shook her head. "It's just, when it happened, the first person I thought of was you." I glanced at her. "Who else would you think of? That intern who brought you a sandwich." She let out a small laugh and punched my arm. "You never let anything go, do you?" The mood in the car lightened. Back at her apartment, she was still feeling low, hugging her knees on the couch and staring into space. I brought her a glass of hot water. She took it, cradling the mug in her hands. "Ethan," she said quietly, "am I pathetic? I call you for everything." "I'm used to it," I said, sitting down next to her. "It's not like I can get rid of you anyway." She turned to look at me, her eyes still glistening. "Do you think I'm annoyed?" "A little." "Oh." She looked down at the water in her mug. "But I'm used to being annoyed," I added. She didn't look up, but a small smile played on her lips. After a moment, she shifted closer, resting her head on my shoulder. "Ethan, yeah, let's just stay like this." "Like what?" "Just like this. Always." Her voice was barely a whisper. "It's not so bad." I hummed in agreement, not moving. Outside, the sky was growing dark. We hadn't turned on any lights in the living room, and the only illumination came from the flickering TV screen. I could feel the warmth of her breath through my shirt. A calm, steady feeling spread through me. It felt like this was exactly how we were supposed to be. Her publishing house organized an annual team-building event, a 2-day retreat at a mountain lodge and spa in the Cascades. While Chloe was packing, she started a video call with me. "Look, my new swimsuit. What do you think?" She held up a floral one-piece against herself. I frowned. "That's what you're bringing? What's wrong with it?" "It's modest. I wouldn't want certain people saying I'm not being classy," she said pointedly. It was clear she was still thinking about Ashley's comments from the reunion. "Whatever you want," I said, not wanting to argue. "Humph. It's not like you'll get to see it anyway," she said smugly, and ended the call. The next afternoon, I was in a meeting with my project team when my phone buzzed. It was a picture from Chloe. She was by the hot springs, wearing that same floral swimsuit, wrapped in a large towel and flashing a peace sign at the camera. In the background, I could see a few other people, including her assistant manager, Mark, who was in swim trunks and standing not far from her. A text followed. "So many people brought their partners. I'm the only one here all alone. So sad." I stared at the picture for a few seconds, my eyes fixed on Mark. I replied, "Have fun." She didn't text back. Around 10 that night, I got another message. This time it was a voice note. When I played it, the background was loud, like a karaoke bar or a club. Her voice was slurred. "Ethan, they keep wanting to drink. I feel so dizzy." I immediately called her. It rang for a long time before a woman answered. "Hello, are you Chloe's emergency contact? This is her colleague, Sarah. This is Ethan Cole. What's wrong with her?" "Oh, Chloe's had a bit too much to drink. We were about to take her back to her room. She just kept saying your name." In the background, I could hear Chloe mumbling, "Give me the phone. I need to talk to Ethan." After some shuffling, her voice came through, close to the mic and thick with tears. "Ethan, why aren't you here to get me?" I pinched the bridge of my nose. "Send me the address." "What?" "The address of a lodge. And her room number. Text it to me. Now." Half an hour later, I was speeding down the highway. My GPS said it was a 90-minute drive. The wind whipping through the open window kept me wide awake. All I could hear was her crying voice in my head. That woman was going to be the death of me. I arrived at the lodge well after midnight. I found her room and knocked. Her colleague, Sarah, opened the door, her face a mask of surprise. "Mr. Cole, you actually came? That was so fast." I nodded. "Where is she?" "Inside. She's asleep." I walked into the room and saw Chloe curled up on the bed. She was sleeping restlessly, her face flushed from the alcohol. Sarah whispered, "We were all having a good time, and she just had too much. We couldn't stop her." "It's okay. Thank you for looking after her," I said. Sarah and another colleague took the hint and left. I sat on the edge of the bed and watched her. She looked so peaceful when she was asleep, none of her usual fire and bluster. Her long eyelashes rested on her cheeks, and her lips were slightly parted. I reached out to brush a stray piece of hair from her face. The moment I touched her, she stirred and her eyes fluttered open. She looked at me, her gaze hazy. "Ethan," she asked, her voice hoarse. "Am I dreaming?" "It's not a dream," I said softly. "I'm here to take you home." She stared at me for a few seconds. Then she reached out, grabbed my arm, and tears started streaming down her face. "What took you so long?" she sobbed. "I was scared. That guy Mark, He kept pouring me drinks. The way he was looking at me was weird. My jaw tightened, but I kept my voice calm. It's okay. I'm here now. That only made her cry harder. She sat up and buried her face in my chest, her shoulders shaking. Ethan, don't leave. My body went rigid for a second before I slowly raised my hand and started patting her back. I won't. She cried in my arms for a long time, until she was completely exhausted and drifted back to sleep, her hand still clutching my shirt. I was stuck in an awkward position, leaning against the headboard. Outside, the sky began to lighten. The woman in my arms was breathing steadily now, her warm breath ghosting across my neck. A strange, powerful sense of protectiveness washed over me. Maybe it was more than that. I looked down at her sleeping face. For the first time, I clearly realized that this girl, the one I had grown up with, had somehow become the most important part of my life. Not because she was my fiancée, but because she was Chloe. She didn't wake up until late the next morning. When she opened her eyes and saw me, she froze for a few seconds. Then she shot up, looked down at her still intact clothes, and then back at me. What are you doing here? Someone called me last night, crying, and asked me to come get her, I said, stretching my numb arm. She tried to remember, and her face slowly turned crimson. What? What did I say? Nothing much. Just that you missed me, I teased. She immediately bristled. No way. I would never say something like that. You also said that your assistant manager, Mark, was giving you trouble. Her expression froze, and she looked away. I was just drunk. I was making it up. Were you? I looked at her pointedly. From now on, don't go to these things. Or if you do, take me with you. She didn't argue, just mumbled, fine, I'll take you. After she washed up, she seemed back to normal, though she was having a hard time looking me in the eye. As we were packing up to check out, we ran into Mark in the hallway. He was visibly startled to see me. He pushed his glasses up his nose and forced a smile. Mr. Cole, what are you doing here? I came to get her, I said flatly. Oh, Chloe had a bit too much to drink last night. We were all worried, he said, looking at her with an air of concern. Are you feeling better? Chloe shrank behind me and nodded. I'm fine. Thanks for your concern, Mark. His smile looked strained. Good to hear. Well, be more careful next time. After he walked away, Chloe let out a breath she'd been holding and tugged on my sleeve. Let's get out of here. On the drive back, she was unusually quiet, just staring out the window. As we neared her apartment, she suddenly said, Ethan, thank you. For what? Thank you. For always being there when I need you. I turned the corner and parked in front of her building. I hope you know that by now. She unbuckled her seatbelt, but didn't get out right away. She hesitated, then turned to look at me. So, are we still calling this engagement off? I looked at her without saying a word. Sunlight filtered through the windshield, illuminating the slight tremble of her eyelashes. She was waiting for an answer that she probably already knew but needed to hear from me. After that night at the lodge, something about Chloe shifted. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. She just seemed less combative. Sometimes, when I was working late, she'd send me a text. Eaten yet? It was short and to the point, which wasn't like her. I'd reply, not yet. A little while later, a delivery guy would show up in my office with soup or noodles from one of my favorite places. I'd send her a picture. You're doing? She'd text back immediately. Was in the neighborhood. Grab an extra. Once is a coincidence. 2 or 3 times starts to feel intentional. That weekend, she showed up at my apartment unannounced, claiming she was there for a hygiene inspection. She walked around my living room, a space decorated in a style best described as bachelor minimalist, and frowned. Ethan, is this a showroom? There's no personality in here. What kind of personality does it need? It's a place to live. She didn't respond. The next day, she returned with an armful of stuff. A plush blanket, a couple of cartoonish throw pillows, and several potted succulents. To liven the place up a bit, she announced, directing me to put the plants on the balcony. And remember to water them. Don't let them die. I looked at the Shiba Inu pillow with its goofy grin and felt a headache coming on. This doesn't really fit my aesthetic. My aesthetic is your aesthetic now, she said, hands on her hips. Besides, it's cute. You can hug it at night. The words hung in the air, and she froze. The tips of her ears turned a bright, visible red. I mean, it's soft. Comfortable to hug, she stammered, grabbing her bag and making a beeline for the door. I gotta go. The door slammed shut. I picked up the ugly, cute pillow. It was soft. Later that night, while reading on the couch, I found myself propping it behind my back. It was, I had to admit, more comfortable than the stiff armrest. Her publishing house was hosting a book fair, and Chloe was roped into managing a booth. She begged me to come help, just for the afternoon. You'll move some boxes, handle some cash. It's easy, she pleaded, batting her eyelashes. I'll buy you barbecue after. When I got there, She was on her tiptoes, struggling to place a stack of books on the top shelf. I walked up behind her and effortlessly lifted the stack into place. She turned, relieved. "You're finally here." The sun was strong, and tiny beads of sweat dotted her nose. I handed her a bottle of water. "Take a break. I've got this." I arranged the books, set up the displays, and hung the posters. I worked efficiently while she acted as my assistant, occasionally talking to passersby. When the crowd thinned, she came over and aimed a small, portable fan at me. "Here, cool off." The fan whirred, offering a small bit of relief. She looked at our neatly organized booth and sighed. "Ethan, I never knew you had these skills. You think those blueprints I draw design themselves." "Fair point." She laughed, her eyes crinkling at the corners. "Good thing I brought you." The girl at the booth next to ours, who was selling handmade crafts, smiled at us. "You two make a great team. Are you newlyweds?" Chloe's face flushed, and she opened her mouth to explain. I cut her off. "Not yet, but soon." The girl offered her congratulations. Under the table, Chloe pinched my arm. "Who's soon with you?" she whispered. "Isn't it?" I raised an eyebrow at her. She was speechless. With a huff, she turned to help a customer, but I could still see the red on her ears. As we were packing up, the sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and red. We loaded the remaining books into the car. Chloe was exhausted, leaning against the car door to catch her breath. "Come on, let's get that barbecue," I said, opening her door. She immediately perked up. "I want to go to that new place, the one with all-you-can-eat brisket." In the car, she rolled down the window, letting the wind toss her hair around. "Ethan," she said suddenly, "thanks. For today. You think one barbecue dinner is enough to pay me back? I'll throw in an extra side of mac and cheese." Deal. It was my mom's birthday, which meant a mandatory family dinner. In these situations, Chloe was a master actress, charming my mom with sweet as sugar misses. Coals until she was grinning from ear to ear. After dinner, it was time for cake. My mom took Chloe's hand. "Chloe, dear, you and Ethan aren't getting any younger. It's time to start thinking about settling down." Chloe smiled, but under the table, her foot found mine and pressed down hard. I calmly handed my mom a slice of cake. "Mom, eat your cake. We're not in a rush." "Not in a rush?" she chided, looking at me. "I'm waiting for grandchildren, you know." Chloe nearly choked on her cake. On the way home, she was unusually quiet. At a red light, I glanced over. "What's wrong? Did my mom scare you?" She shook her head, staring out the window. "It's just, time flies, doesn't it?" "Yeah, Ethan," she said, turning to me. "What do you think it would be like if we actually got married?" "Probably like this, but with a piece of paper." "What's the point of that?" she shot back. "There isn't one," I agreed. "So what kind of point are you looking for? Candlelit dinners every night? A trip around the world?" She was stumped. After a moment, she deflated. "I guess that's not what I mean either. It's just life," I said, looking ahead. "You live it with someone. Living it with you is just easier." "Easier? How am I easy?" "For starters, I already know you're afraid of the dark. You grind your teeth when you sleep, and you can't eat fish without swallowing a bone," I said casually. "With someone else, I have to learn all that all over again. It's a hassle." She stared at me for a few seconds, then launched herself at me. "Ethan Cole, who grinds their teeth. You're the one who grinds their teeth." I laughed, grabbing her wrists. "Just admit it, Chloe. You're used to me." She struggled for a moment, then gave up, letting out a huff but not arguing. The air in the car suddenly felt thicker. The street lights slid across her face as she looked down, her eyelashes casting small shadows on her cheeks. Her wrist was warm in my palm, and her pulse was racing. Or maybe it was mine. You should never get too comfortable. Just when I thought things were settling down, a new problem arose. Chloe's publishing house was hosting a joint gala with another company, and attendees were required to bring a date who could dance. This sent her into a panic. "I can't dance," she wailed, rolling around on my couch. "I'm going to make a fool of myself." "Then don't go." "I can't. My boss specifically said I have to be there." She sat up, her eyes gleaming. "Ethan, do you know how to dance?" "No." "Liar. Weren't you in the ballroom dance club in college?" I was dragged there by my roommate to fill a quota. I'd forgotten everything. She didn't care. She insisted we spend a weekend afternoon in my living room for a crash course. She pushed the coffee table aside, rolled up the rug, and pulled up a waltz tutorial on her phone. "We'll start with the basics. It's easy. Just follow me," she said confidently. On the very first step, she stomped on my foot. Sorry, she yelped. On the second step, she did it again. And the third, and the fourth. I sighed and grabbed her shoulders to stop her from flailing. "Stop looking at your feet. Look at my shoulders and follow my lead." She was as stiff as a board, a marionette with tangled strings. "Relax," I said, guiding her slowly. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. After half an hour, She could finally follow along without crushing my toes. A thin layer of sweat glistened on her forehead, and her cheeks were flushed. "Hey, this isn't so hard," she said, a little proud of herself. "You're improving," I offered. She beamed. The afternoon sun streamed through the window, catching on the damp wisps of hair at her temples. The music was slow and gentle, and she was leaning against me, her soft breaths warming my chin. For a fleeting moment, I thought I wouldn't mind if we just kept dancing like this forever. The night of the gala, I wore a dark suit. When I went to pick her up, she was still getting ready. After waiting nearly 20 minutes, she finally came downstairs. The sight of her made me pause. She rarely dressed up like this. She was wearing a champagne-colored slip dress that fell to her ankles, her hair swept up to reveal the elegant curve of her neck and collarbones. Her makeup was subtle, her lips a soft, dusty rose. "What are you staring at? Don't you recognize me?" she asked, tugging nervously at her dress. "You look okay," I said, opening the passenger door for her. "Dress is a little short, though." "Short? It's down to my ankles," she retorted, sliding into the seat and rolling her eyes at me. "What is wrong with your eyes, Ethan?" The venue was stunning, glittering with lights. And of course, Mark was there, looking slick in his own suit. When he saw us, his expression soured for a moment. Chloe got nervous, her hand tightening on her clutch. I offered her my arm. "Here." She hesitated for a second before taking it. Her palm was cool. When the music started, I led her onto the dance floor. Compared to her clumsiness during our practice session, she was much better tonight. She didn't step on my feet once. The lights swirled around us, and she looked up at me, her eyes reflecting the scattered light. "Ethan, you're actually a pretty good dancer. You're a good teacher." "Oh, stop." When the song ended, the room filled with applause. She was slightly out of breath, her cheeks pink. I instinctively raised my hand to wipe a bead of sweat from her temple. She flinched at my touch, but didn't pull away. Someone from the crowd called out, "You and Chloe look perfect together. Such great chemistry." She ducked her head, embarrassed, but a smile crept onto her lips. In that moment, I decided wearing the stuffy suit was worth it. After the gala, I drove her home. In the car, she kicked off her heels and rubbed her ankles. "I'm exhausted. These heels are a form of torture." "Then don't wear them." "No way. Looking good is what matters most." When we got to her building, she didn't get out of the car right away. "Thank you. For tonight," she said softly. "You didn't embarrass me." "Likewise." She unbuckled her seatbelt, paused, then leaned over and gave me a quick, feather-light kiss on the cheek. "That's your reward," she said, then scrambled out of the car and ran for the lobby door like a startled rabbit. I sat there, stunned, the spot on my cheek still tingling and warm. I watched her disappear into the building, then touched my face and couldn't help but smile. That woman. A surprise attack and a hasty retreat. What kind of move was that? The next day was Sunday. I slept in. When I finally woke up, I saw a series of texts from her, sent in the middle of the night. "You asleep? Was I? Too impulsive tonight? You're not mad, are you?" Then, half an hour later, forget I said anything. I could perfectly picture her agonizing over her phone. I texted back, "Just woke up. Not mad. Next time, don't aim for the cheek." My message was met with deafening silence. A full 10 minutes passed before she replied with a single word. "Jerk." It felt like someone had hit the fast-forward button on our lives. Chloe stopped all her hesitant testing and became direct, bold even. She'd call me and ask, "Ethan, are you free this weekend? There's a new movie out I want to see." Or, "My parents sent a crate of Dungeness crab. Come over for dinner." She even started showing up in my office when I was working late, carrying a thermal container. "My mom made soup and insisted I bring you some," she'd say, her eyes avoiding mine as she set it down. I'd open it, and the rich aroma would fill the room. "Tell your mom I said thanks." "Tell her yourself," she'd reply, but she'd pull up a chair and watch me eat. My colleagues would walk by and smile. "Chloe, visiting again?" She'd respond cheerfully, "Yep, making sure he eats." After they were gone, she'd ask me quietly, "Does this bother you at work?" "No," I said, taking a sip of soup. "They're used to it." "Oh." She nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. At the movies that weekend, she picked a romance. The plot was predictable, and halfway through, she started yawning. Her head began to nod, eventually finding its way to my shoulder. I didn't move, just let her sleep. When the movie ended and the lights came up, she woke up, rubbing her eyes. "Is it over?" "Yeah, let's go." As we walked out, she naturally reached out and grabbed the hem of my shirt, just like she did when we were kids. The mall was crowded, so I turned and took her hand in mine. Her fingers were slender and a little cold. She was startled for a second, but didn't pull away, letting me lead her through the throng of people. The warmth from my hand slowly seeped into hers. Neither of us spoke. We just walked hand in hand through the bustling mall. It felt like the most natural thing in the world. Fall arrived, and the weather cooled down. Chloe had this annoying tendency to catch a cold every time the seasons changed. This year was no exception. She was sneezing constantly, her voice thick and nasal. I went over to check on her after work. She was curled up on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, her nose red from blowing it. "Have you taken anything?" I asked, feeling her forehead. She had a low-grade fever. "I did. It's not working," she croaked miserably. I went to the kitchen to make her some ginger tea. While I was slicing the ginger, I heard her in the living room, calling in sick to work. "Boss, I really can't get out of bed." "Yes, I understand. Thank you." She hung up and let out a groan. "There goes my perfect attendance bonus." I brought her the tea. "What's more important, your health or the money?" "Both," she mumbled, taking small, cautious sips and wincing at the spicy flavor. That night, her fever still hadn't broken. I decided to stay, crashing on her couch. In the middle of the night, I heard a noise from her room. I got up to check and found her sleeping fitfully, having kicked off most of her blankets. I tucked her back in, my hand brushing against her forehead. Still warm. She stirred, grabbing my hand and pressing it to her cheek. Cool. Feels good." She murmured and refused to let go. I had no choice but to sit on the edge of her bed. Moonlight streamed through a gap in the curtains, illuminating her face. Her breathing was a little heavy, but with her hand holding mine, she finally settled into a deep sleep. I sat like that for nearly an hour, until I was sure she was sound asleep, before gently slipping my hand free. Back on the couch, my hand still felt warm from her feverish skin, and from the feeling of being so completely and utterly trusted. After she recovered, her attitude toward me shifted again. She became even more brazenly demanding. "Ethan, I'm hungry. I want you to make your lasagna." "Ethan, I think my laptop has a virus. You need to come look at it." "Ethan, come with me to IKEA this weekend. I want to buy a new bookshelf." I agreed to it all. The day we went to IKEA, the place was a zoo. She pushed the cart with infectious enthusiasm, wanting to touch and test out everything. "Ethan, this couch is so comfortable. For our. I mean, it would look great in your living room. These dishes are nice. Very minimalist. A perfect match for your place. And this floor lamp. It will be perfect for reading." She chattered on, the words hour and later slipping out more and more frequently. I followed behind her, pushing the cart, not pointing it out. When we got to the showroom displays, she ducked into a small model study, sat at the desk, and pretended to read a book. The lighting in here is great," she nodded, then looked up at me, her eyes sparkling. "What do you think, Ethan?" I leaned against the doorframe, watching her. "Think about what?" "Just, if our place had a study like this one day." Her voice trailed off, a little embarrassed. Sunlight poured through the window, making her hair look like a soft halo. I walked over, picked up a pen from the desk, and scribbled a few words on a sticky note, placing on the page of the book she was reading. She picked it up. It read, "Rental fee, $50/hour. No credit." She stared at it for a second, then grabbed a throw pillow and hurled it at me. "Ethan, you're the worst." I laughed, catching the pillow. She stood up in a huff and pulled me toward the exit. "Never mind, let's just go home." After a few steps, she couldn't resist looking back at the little study, a smile she couldn't hide playing on her lips. On the way home, she sat in the passenger seat, watching the scenery fly by. "Ethan," she said softly. "Yeah, is this? Are we dating now?" The light turned red, and the car slowed to a stop. I turned to look at her. She didn't look back, but the tips of her ears were turning red again. "What do you think?" I asked. She pursed her lips and didn't answer. The light turned green. I started driving again. After a long moment, I heard her say, very quietly but very clearly, "I think we are." The air in the car suddenly felt thin. Her quiet declaration landed in my chest like a stone in a calm pond, sending ripples through me. I didn't respond right away, just kept my hands on the wheel and my eyes on the road. She must have sensed my silence, because she shifted uncomfortably. "If you don't think so, that's fine too," she mumbled. We hit another red light. I stopped the car, turned, and looked at her seriously. "Chloe, what?" she said, still pouting, still not looking at me. "Look at me." She hesitated, then slowly turned her head. Her eyes were bright, filled with a mix of uncertainty and a flicker of hope. "You're the boss," I told her, my voice even. "If you say we are, then we are." Her eyes widened, as if she hadn't expected such a direct answer. Then a smile broke free, one she tried and failed to suppress, resulting in an adorable, goofy expression. "Oh," she said, quickly turning back to the window. Then it settled. But in the rearview mirror, I saw her quickly wipe something from the corner of her eye. The light changed. As I started driving, my right hand instinctively reached over and covered her left, which was resting on her lap. Her fingers tensed for a second, then relaxed. She turned her hand over, and our fingers intertwined. Our palms pressed together, sharing warmth. No one said another word. But something had changed. Once our relationship was official, it was like a dam broke inside Chloe. She became even clingier and far more audacious. For instance, she'd wrap her arms around me from behind while I was at my drafting table, resting her chin on my shoulder. "Ethan, I'm hungry. There's food in the fridge. I don't want to move. You make it. Let me finish this section." "No, I want it now," she'd whine, blowing air on my ear. I put down my pencil and pull her around to face me. "What do you want?" "Noodles. With a fried egg on top," she'd say, smiling triumphantly, her eyes crinkling. Or, when we were watching a movie at night, she was no longer content to just lean on me. She would curl up in my lap, turning me into a human recliner. If a scene was sad, she'd look up at me with teary eyes, asking for a kiss. At first, they were brief, gentle pecks, but they grew longer, more intense. In the space between our breaths, I could hear both our hearts starting to lose control. Every time we broke apart, her cheeks would be flushed and her eyes dewy, like a satisfied kitten. She'd bury her hot face in my neck and whisper, "Ethan, I think your technique is improving." I tightened my arms around her and laugh. "Lots of practice." And she'd pinch my side. "Who have you been practicing with? Who else is there?" One weekend, we both had a rare day off. We stayed home, doing nothing. She had claimed my couch, wrapped in the plush blanket she'd forced on me, cackling at some reality show on TV. I was next to her on my laptop, finishing up some work. Sunlight filtered through the leaves of the succulents on the balcony, casting dappled shadows on the floor. It was quiet but comfortable. Suddenly, she hit pause and leaned over to look at my screen. "Still not done?" "Almost." "Oh." She didn't move away. Instead, she leaned in and kissed my cheek. "Keep going." She started to pull back, but I wrapped an arm around her waist, holding her in place. "Think you could distract me and then just run away?" She blinked, the picture of innocence. That was encouragement. "Not enough encouragement," I said, and lowered my head to kiss her properly. This kiss was deeper than any before it, with a certainty that left no room for argument. She pushed against my chest for a moment, a token resistance, before melting into my arms, her hands unconsciously gripping my shirt. We didn't break apart until we were both breathless. Her lips were glistening, and her eyes were hazy as she rested her head on my chest, catching her breath. "You're a menace," she accused, her voice soft and lacking any real conviction. I rubbed my chin against the top of her head. "It's not menacing when it's your own girlfriend." She didn't say anything, just snuggled deeper into my embrace. The air was filled with the faint scent of gardenias and the warmth of her skin. In that moment, I thought this is what people mean when they talk about simple, perfect moments. That evening, we had planned to go out for dinner, but as we were about to leave, she looked at the dark clouds gathering outside and changed her mind. "Looks like it's going to rain. I don't feel like going out. We can order in." She shook her head, her eyes bright. "Let's cook, like last time." Last time referred to the night I'd made her ginger tea when she was sick. "What do you want to eat?" Beef stew. Do you know how to make it?" "I can try." The result was me cooking in the kitchen while she followed me around like a lost puppy, claiming to be my sous chef, but mostly just getting in the way. "Ethan, do the tomatoes need to be peeled?" "Ethan, is this beef cut too big?" "Ethan." I sighed and guided her to a chair by the kitchen door. "Chloe, please, the most helpful thing you can do right now is sit there quietly." She pouted but did as she was told, swinging her legs as she watched me work. The stew simmered in the pot, its rich aroma slowly filling the apartment. Outside, the rain began to fall, tapping softly against the window panes. The warm light of the kitchen and the smell of food created a cozy bubble. She had fallen silent, her chin resting in her hands as she watched me. After a long time, she said softly, "Ethan, yeah, this is really nice." I turned to look at her. She had a small, contented smile on her face. "Yeah," I agreed, turning back to stir the pot, a smile on my own face. It was nice. Just as the stew was ready, the doorbell rang. My hands were full. "Can you get that?" I called out. She ran to the door. I heard her surprised voice. "Mrs. Cole? Mr. Cole?" My stomach clenched. I wiped my hands and walked out of the kitchen. Sure enough, my parents were standing in the doorway, holding a bag of fruit, staring in shock at Chloe, who was in her pajamas with her hair casually tied up. The atmosphere froze. Chloe's face turned a shade of crimson I'd never seen before. She stood there, completely flustered. "And Mrs. Cole, Mr. Cole, what are you doing here?" My mom was the first to recover, a huge grin spreading across her face. "Oh, Chloe, you're here too. We were just passing by and wanted to drop off some fruit for Ethan. We had no idea." Her eyes darted between the two of us, a knowing look on her face. My dad coughed, looking awkward. I stepped forward, gently pulling the petrified Chloe behind me, and took the fruit. "Mom, Dad, come on in. Dinner's almost ready." "No, no," my mom said quickly, waving her hands, unable to hide her delight. "We already ate. We just want to drop this off. You two eat. We'll get going." She grabbed my dad and started to leave. Just before the door closed, my mom winked at Chloe. "Chloe, you should come over more often." The door clicked shut. Chloe let out a mortified groan and covered her face, sinking to the floor. "Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. They're going to get the wrong idea." I looked down at her, trying not to laugh. "What wrong idea? That we're living together," she wailed, looking up, her face still bright red. "Aren't we?" I raised an eyebrow. "You're here 5 nights a week. That's different." That's because." She struggled to find an excuse. I bent down and pulled her to her feet. "It's fine. They were going to find out eventually. Let's eat. I'll never be able to face them again," she lamented. "Don't worry. They're probably high-fiving each other in the car right now." Sure enough, my mom called the next day, her voice buzzing with excitement. "Ethan, did your father and I interrupt anything last night?" "You know you did." "Oh, don't be like that." "So, how serious is it with Chloe? What are you two making it official?" "Mom, slow down." "How can I slow down? I absolutely adore that girl. If you two are serious, your father and I need to start planning." I cut her off. "We're moving at our own pace. Don't worry about it." After finally getting her off the phone, I saw Chloe peeking out of the bedroom, a nervous look on her face. "What did your mom say?" "Nothing. Just asked when we're getting married." Her eyes went wide. "What did you say?" I said, "It depends on how certain someone behaves." She grabbed a pillow from the couch and threw it at me. "Ethan Cole." I caught it, smiling as I watched her. The sun was streaming in, and she was standing there in my oversized t-shirt, barefoot on the hardwood floor. Her hair was a mess, but she looked warm, like home. I walked over and pulled her into my arms. She struggled for a moment, then relaxed against me. "Chloe, do you feel it now?" I whispered in her ear. She was quiet for a few seconds, then let out a soft, "Feel what?" Her voice was muffled against my chest. "It's like my left hand holding my right. But the kind of right hand I can't live without." I laughed softly and tightened my embrace. It was a very Chloe-like analogy, but it was also perfect. With our relationship stable, new challenges appeared. Chloe's publishing house had a major annual project, and as a key editor, she was swamped. She worked late for days on end and lost weight. When I picked her up at night, she'd get in the car, clutching a thick manuscript, too tired to even speak. "Should we get something to eat or go straight home?" I asked. She closed her eyes. "Home. I'm not hungry." Halfway there, while waiting a red light, I glanced over at her. She had already fallen asleep, her head tilted against the window. There were faint dark circles under her eyes. A pang of protectiveness went through me. I didn't drive home. Instead, I went to her favorite soup place. She woke up as I was parking. "Are we here?" "Yep. Get out. Let's get some soup before we go home." She looked at the restaurant sign. Then a small smile spread across her face. "Ethan, how did you know I wanted this?" "Just a guess." The warm soup brought some color back to her cheeks. "You just get me," she sighed contentedly. "Eat slowly," I said, placing a small side dish in her bowl. "Work will always be there. Don't burn yourself out." "I can't. This project is too important," she said with a frown. "And that assistant manager, Mark, has been finding fault with everything I do lately. I need to prove myself so he can't look down on me." My expression darkened. "He's still giving you a hard time. It's not a huge deal. He's just being overly critical," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "It's fine. I can handle it." When I dropped her off, she leaned over and gave me a quick kiss before getting out of the car. "Thanks for the soup. I'm recharged," she said with a smile, waving as she disappeared into her building. I watched her go, my fingers drumming lightly on the steering wheel. Them our guy. It seemed I needed to find an opportunity to make him understand what keeping your distance really means. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. The publishing house held a gala to celebrate the project's success, and as Chloe's +1, I was on the guest list. Chloe's work on the project had been a huge success, earning praise from the top executives. She was radiant, dressed in a simple but elegant black dress, her smile confident as she stood by my side. Mark was there, of course. He looked uncomfortable when he saw us, but still came over with a drink in his hand. "Chloe, great work on the project." "Congratulations," he said, his tone neutral enough. "Thank you, Mark," Chloe replied politely. He then turned his attention to me, his eyes sizing me up. "Mr. Cole, good of you to come." I raised my glass and clinked it against his. My voice was calm, but carried an unmistakable weight. I wouldn't miss anything important to Chloe. I trust you'll continue to take good care of her at work, Mark. I put a slight emphasis on good care, holding his gaze. He looked away, flustered. Of course. Just then, the CEO of the publishing house came over. He saw me and shook my hand enthusiastically. Mr. Cole, it's an honor. Your design for the new City Plaza was absolutely brilliant. I offered a few modest words. The CEO then turned to Chloe. Chloe, you found yourself a wonderful partner. Mr. Cole is such a rising star. You two make a beautiful couple. Chloe smiled and thanked him. Mark stood off to the side, his face shifting through shades of red and white, completely fading into the background. For the rest of the evening, he didn't come near us again. On the drive home, Chloe was in high spirits, humming a song. Happy now? I asked. Of course. Her eyes were sparkling. Did you see the look on Mark's face? Huh. Let's see him try to give me a hard time now. Yeah, I think he gets the message. She leaned closer, studying me. Ethan, you did that on purpose, didn't you? Did what on purpose? Talking to the CEO like that, and the way you looked at Mark. She tilted her head. Were you marking your territory? I kept my eyes on the road, a small smile playing on my lips. Was it not obvious? She stared at me for a second, then collapsed against my shoulder, laughing. Obvious. It was so obvious. Ethan Cole, I never knew you had a possessive side. I reached over with one hand and ruffled her hair. When it comes to you, it's a necessity. After the gala, Chloe finally got a short, well-deserved break. She had been planning a short trip for us for weeks, a 2-day getaway to a historic coastal town nearby. The day we left, she was as excited as a little kid, waking me up at the crack of dawn. Ethan, get up. We're going to miss our train. We have an hour and a half. We'll make it. I groaned, letting her drag me out of bed. The town was small, with cobblestone streets, charming bridges over a gentle river, and a slow, relaxed pace. We walked hand in hand with no destination in mind, sampling local food and browsing artisan shops. In the evening, we checked into a riverside inn. Our room had a small balcony that looked out over the water. As the sun began to set, it bathed the entire town in a warm, golden light. We leaned against the balcony railing, watching the day end. It was quiet, the only sounds being the gentle flow of the river and the occasional call of a bird. She was nestled in my arms when she suddenly said, Ethan, when we're old, can we find a place like this to live? Okay, you can plant flowers, and I'll go fishing. You know how to fish? I can learn. The point is, she said, tilting her head back to look at me, her eyes reflecting the sunset. As long as I'm with you, everything is interesting. I looked down at her, my heart swelling with a soft, overwhelming emotion. I couldn't help but lean down and kiss her forehead. Yeah, with you, everything is interesting. Night fell, and the town lit up with red lanterns. We found a small tavern and ordered a few dishes and a bottle of locally brewed craft cider. The cider was sweet and not too strong. Chloe had several glasses, and a rosy blush spread across her cheeks. Her eyes grew hazy, and whenever she looked at me, it felt like she was pulling me in. After dinner, we walked slowly back to the inn along the riverbank. The moonlight was like liquid silver on the cobblestones. The clicking of her heels was a sharp, clear sound in the quiet night. We reached the inn and stopped under a large, fragrant lilac tree at the entrance. Ethan, she called softly. I think I'm a little drunk. She turned to face me, her eyes glistening. I can see that. So, she took a step forward, her body almost flush against mine. Her hands came up to circle my neck, her breath a sweet, cidery warmth on my skin. Whatever I do now, I could just blame it on the alcohol. My heart skipped a beat. I wrapped my arms around her waist. And what do you want to do? She stood on her toes, her lips brushing against my ear, her warm breath sending a shiver down my spine. I want to kiss you, and not on the cheek. Before the words were even fully out of her mouth, her soft lips were on mine. It was different from any kiss we'd shared before. It was sweet with the taste of cider and carried a kind of reckless bravery. It was clumsy, yet passionate, as if she was trying to pour 2 decades of pin-up emotion into that single moment. I responded to her, guiding her. There in the quiet night of the old town, under the blooming lilac tree. The moonlight draped us in silver, and the river was our orchestra. The kiss was long and deep. Finally, she leaned against me, breathless. Ethan, my legs are weak. I chuckled softly and swept her up into my arms. You fool. I'm taking you home. To our temporary home. A small room filled with an immense warmth. Our long, stumbling journey as childhood sweethearts had finally, at that moment, burst into full bloom.